the rest of the story.
Welcome back to JW Night Talk. I hope everyone's having a good evening tonight. I know we are up here in Canada, Alberta. The weather is just beautiful for this time of the year. So we have a really good program ahead of us. We are talking about Japan. And when we talk about Japan, we think Jehovah's Witnesses in Japan. We're going to look at Jehovah's Witnesses in Japan. We're going to go over to their website and look at what's new. But first of all, to get the show going, I thought I'd put on a little 2-minute video on Japan. And this is Japan, Visit Japan. This is what this site's called. It's I don't know if it's put out by some people that are advertising Japan. So here we go. Let's just see what's happening in Japan. Japan. Well, I think I'd put Japan on my bucket list. There's a lot happening in Japan when we think of what's going on in Japan. Now, Japan is often thought of as a country, a nation of people that, we think of the Second World War, what happened in Japan. and then how this country bounced back and how now they are a country that is leading the future. Let's take another look at another video. And the reason I'm showing these videos, I want to give the audience, you as the audience, an opportunity to see how forward thinking the Japanese culture is. And we're going to take a look at what's going on within Jehovah's Witnesses here next. But let's look at Japan here. We're going to look at 7 reasons why Japan is living in the future. So here we go.
Tokyo, this place is wild. It's huge. Oh my god. Here are 7 ways that Japan is 7 years ahead of the world. Look at these lights. And order. What the is this? Whoa. That's music. Japan is just living in the future, I'm telling you. Number 1, super toilets. Whoa. Japan is the only place I can think of where going to the bathroom is an experience in itself. Their toilets are so advanced. Toilets in Japan are always amazing. It just squirted me. They can even heat up your seat and play music if you need some cover. So if you don't want anyone next to you to hear your pooping sounds or bodily functions, you press this music button and a rainforest sound comes on. Watch. That's awesome. And get this, because it's quite crazy. Number 2, vending machines. This country takes simple vending machines to a whole new level of craziness. Sweet potato pie. Tastes pretty fresh too. Corn soup. We're gonna go with a hot coffee right here. Cheers to my hot coffee. The flavors are quite impressive and the variety is unbelievable. Ice cream vending machine. 3 cans. Just in case you want any carrots. Here's a spaghetti bolognese sauce. Popcorn vending machine. No joke, it's actually really good. In fact, Japan has 5.5 million vending machines, about 1 machine per 30 people. Right now I'm in a very remote area of Okinawa Island, and there's vending machines. Here's the drink. Smells like Monster. Just name what you need, and most likely, you will find it. It's so safe in Japan that the vending machines, literally, the next stop is up there. It's open, and nobody takes it. Heck, even things you don't need are here. I'm very glad I just bought my mysterious ball from this vending machine. Why is there a bunch of rocks in here? It just keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder. A bunch of rocks, and then in comes a... You even seeing this right now? A beetle. It's supposed to walk, but it doesn't walk. I'm out of here. And speaking of convenience, I've been to 197 countries around the world, but I can say that Tokyo, Japan is one of the best places to visit. Planning a trip in Japan can be very intimidating because of so many cool places to visit with so little time. But I have found a game changer that's going to help me plan trips in 1/10 the time, and I want to share it with you. Today's sponsor, Magic, is a free personal AI travel tool that helps me with booking hotels and planning trips. You can ask Magic to create custom itineraries for you based on your budget and how you like to travel. It can be food-based or history or else. Just click the Number 3, everything is automated. They have a no-touch system when you shop at 7-Eleven. So weird, you don't give them any money, you just put it in a machine. You can order through an iPad when eating lunch. I just walked into this ramen restaurant and I order on this little machine in front of me. I don't speak to anyone. Everything's automated, I put in my order and the food comes. And even their taxi doors automatically open. The door just magically opens for you when you get it. In the middle of the street, they have these touchscreen things. This and many more cool things, like an automated parking lot, or this touchscreen vending machine. Oh, so you pay with your MetroCard? Wow. Number 4, capsule hotels. Dude, look at this. That is so crazy. These cheap capsule hotels may look weird, but they're actually pretty comfortable. Everything you need as a backpacker is easily available inside. I guess that's off. Turn it all the way, and we're on. Only 1 USB. This must be USB-C, maybe? Are these speakers? And there's just enough space to work, pass time, and sleep. Good night. Trust me, it's so comfortable. Number 5, bullet trains.
This is the bullet train to Osaka. We're gonna go check it out. Let's see what we can find.
If there's anything else Japan is famous for, it's their discipline and punctuality. These bullet trains are a testament to that, and they are so reliable that they can carry 360 million passengers per year.
This place is a madhouse.
That is more than the entire population of the USA. Number 6, robot servers. Of course, how can we forget the robots of Japan? Japan has always been so unique in integrating these cute robots in everyday life, from serving you in cafes to performing for you at night bars.
Welcome to the Lobo restaurant. Hello.
And finally, number 7, arcade gaming.
This place is huge. Oh my god.
These arcades are called pachinkos, and they can be seen everywhere in Japan. They are so big, so loud, and so colorful that you'll feel like you're inside a video game.
I literally don't have a clue what's going on. And I can't even hear myself thinking right now. It's so loud in here.
It's pretty much the Japanese version of a casino, but merged with their love of anime, cartoons, and technology.
Cool to be here.
See, these days when people talk about AI taking over, it's quite exciting to see how even more advanced Japan can get in the next few years. But honestly, who needs AI right now when living in Japan is already in the future? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you enjoyed this video, please comment your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so Japan. So the place of the future, the country of the future. So this gives us an idea, a glimpse into Japan, and it helps us to see what type of people live in Japan and how forward thinking they are from us. I know that's quite forward from us here in Canada. Now, I'm going to move over to another article here. And this article says, how do Jehovah's Witnesses differ in Japan compared to Western countries? And this is just a Quora article here, right here. And it says, how do Jehovah's Witnesses differ in Japan compared to Western countries? And here's the answer. Oops, I got out of that somehow. Huh, there it is. Okay, wonder what that did. I got into an ad. Okay, here I'm back at it. Okay, the answer was, and I'm glad it was someone from the country, they said, I'm indeed grateful to you because your question does offer me a rare opportunity to disclose a portion of my long accumulated knowledge in one of my major research themes, New Religion. Jehovah's Witnesses in Japan lead a distinctive lifestyle as their overseers' brethren do, and they obediently keep their strict rules, visiting neighboring pagans door to door for propagation on a regular basis, stubbornly refusing to engage in any kind of pagan event, and dismissing anything trendy as a trap that can lead them to fall a prey to Satan. One thing I can tell as distinct in the Japanese JW activists is that they are still more harshly mocked and ridiculed in the whole society due to a lack of understanding of religious fundamentalism, which has been rarely seen in Japan until their emergence after World War II. We Japanese have historically tended to nurture a vague, subtle, unsolidified system of beliefs in the supernatural and have long been ignorant of the firmness of faith as required in Christianity. As a result, most JW children in Japan have to face afflicting discrimination and painful exclusion in school, unable to participate in most events held as school recreations, and refusing to sing both the national anthem and the school anthem. So this gives us a little bit of an idea what's floating around out there, some of the responses, how Jehovah's Witnesses in Japan are a bit different compared to Western countries. The belief system is different. We're going to look at this article, and then we'll get into the JW website. Now, this is the Door Knockers. This is a 2023 article by Josh Galen. Bing bong, the doorbell chimes as you stumble around in your underwear, grasping around for some pants on a lazy Saturday morning. Who is that? You think to yourself. It's not NHK again, is it? You make your way quietly to the door so as not to be heard as your dog barks enthusiastically in the background. You press your face against the cold metal door and spy through the peephole while two nicely dressed people, a middle-aged woman and her younger companion, standing slightly behind her, both holding tablets in one hand and bags in the other. Census people. You open the door to warm smiles and a slightly surprised looks. "Good morning," the older lady begins. "Do you speak English?" After a minute of self-introductions, they get to the point. "We're discussing with your neighbors the topic of world conditions. With wars, earthquakes, and famine occurring worldwide, many people ask questions. Is this life all there is? What are your thoughts on this topic?" Did I unwillingly sign up for a theology class? World conditions, you begin wondering what the hell these strangers are doing at your door on such a blustery day. Sir, the younger one interjects as you space out and try to navigate past the images of your booze-filled shenanigans the night before. "Did we catch you at a bad time?" "Sorry, yeah, I'm not feeling too well." "Oh. Well, we're sorry for disturbing you. We can come back at a more convenient time and leave you with this." She reaches into her bag and holds out a pamphlet with colorful images of a paradisiac scene filled with clean-cut people picnicking in the mountains and children frolicking with animals. "Yeah, sure," you muster up as you take the paper and slowly close the door. Picture of J.W. Org, I guess, in Japan. Introductions to the Truth. Jehovah's Witnesses are a Bible literist Christian group numbering 8 million with members in every part of the globe. They pride themselves on being God's one true religion amongst 4,000 recognized religions worldwide. They meet twice a week for indoctrination and educational tips on proselytizing inside their churches, aptly named Kingdom Halls. Baptized members are required to preach to and recruit new members on a monthly, if not weekly, basis. And they mostly stick to door-to-door knocking, and that's supposedly what Jesus and the early Christians did, but you'll also find them in your workplace offering you literature, standing outside of metro areas and train stations offering you literature, in your mailbox via letter from offering you literature, and occasionally phone calls on your landline offering you literature. The JWs affectionately call their theology the truth, since in their minds it is the one and only truth. Any other source of information, whether scientific, archaeology, otherwise, aren't to be trusted 100%. This especially goes for anything that contradicts their beliefs. Teachers, professors, government officials, all of them are treated with the same skepticism. They're controlled by Satan, who in turn controls the whole earth. That's kind of what JWs believe in a nutshell. He kind of nailed it, that writer. Okay, JWs in Japan. The founder of the religion, Pastor Russell, a term they've strayed away from, was the first JW to set foot in Japan in September of 1911, giving sermons all over the country. By 1938, there were 110 missionaries and converts meeting together to further their work of saving the right-hearted individuals, aka those who responded favorably. Then came nationalism along with the war, and Christians of all sorts were dispersed or persecuted. After World War II, the religion spread like wildfire in Japan. Today there are over 214,000 members scattered from the subarctic of Hokkaido to subtropical islands of Okinawa. I think I got that one word right. During the pandemic, the witnesses stuck to letter writing campaigns and phone preaching while attending their meetings on Zoom. With the pandemic slowly fading away, the preachers are out once again in full force, knocking on doors and standing outside offering their literature. Second-generation displeasure. Hot on the heels of the recent assassination of Shinzo Abe and the awareness of the effects of high-control groups, many younger Jehovah's Witnesses have also had enough. According to JW statistics printed online each year, after factoring in the death rate, over 1 million witnesses have left the religion worldwide over a 10-year period, including many in Japan and myself. I was a fourth-generation JW who left just a couple of years ago. Many who left were sick of the authoritarianism in the religion, overly restrictive and controlling rules on dress and grooming, entertainment, education, relationship, etc. Many endured physical abuses from parents who followed the direction of the church leaders to shut their kids up during the 2-hour-long meetings held each week. Others discovered that child sex abuse issues and a lack of reporting to authorities despite keeping a record of every serious sin committed by all members. Leaving the religion as a baptized witness is a terrifying ordeal for those who cherish relationships with family and lifelong friends. Shunning is a real issue that is encouraged in the form of video and printed material. Speaking out against the religion, as I'm doing for the first time, is basically a death sentence for any remaining relationship still held in the organization. So the next time you're offered a pamphlet or hear knocking on your door from two JWs, keep in mind that they're doing what they feel is right, hoping to save you from Armageddon, which is just around the corner, as it always has been since their inception. Berating them only strengthens their determination to remain in the faith and proves them to be the outside world or worldly people. Proves to them that the outside world or worldly people are truly controlled by Satan. Thoughtful and kindly worded questions and statements go a long way if done sincerely. It worked on me. Josh Galen. Josh Galen is a Californian, born California, living in the beachside city where isn't beachside is in Japan. Okay, he creates acoustic J-rock songs. So that's just a little bit about him. I'll put a link to this article. It was a good article. So he's an ex-Jehovah's Witness, Josh Galen, and he put that out this year. So in Japan, from the videos that we just seen, Japan is it's a nation that is forward thinking, and so they really do a lot of thinking about their second generation people when they're making their laws and how they're dealing with it. We see that. We've been following the Japan news on how this second generation thing's coming about. We have a video on that, and some lawyers actually got involved, and they're speaking in behalf of all these children. Now, I think this is forward thinking. I think it's, to a degree, a large degree, happened in Norway. For the country to come to a conclusion that we have to shut this religion down as a charity. I think New Zealand is on its way, Australia, and Japan now, a forward-thinking country, getting the second generation out there to speak out. Here's a religion that has put everyone in a trance, spellbound. Everyone's spellbound by 9 members they call the faithful slave. And in the Elders book, we've been examining that lately. There's no scriptural support. A lot of the sections, it just says, obey the faithful slave. So that's narcissism, that's idol worship, that's cult following to like there's so many degrees, levels to this organization, secret elders books, and all of the like. So here we're going to go to the website to see how Jehovah's Witnesses, how do they view themselves in the world? So let's go to our next site here. It's Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, I think it'll fit on this screen. Okay, so what I did here is I just went to the Jehovah's Witness website, plugged in Japan, and up comes legal resources for Japan. So they always have that for every country. Medical information for Japan. The Jehovah's Witnesses really get into people's medical business, because if you don't have a blood card, it means you're not a Jehovah's Witnesses. You've disassociated yourself. So you have to have a blood card to be in this religion. You have to fill out blood cards for your infant babies, and hope that no one gives them a blood transfusion, which could cost them their lives, which According to the 9 members, the governing body, the ones that are idolized, they say that this is all God's will, Jehovah's will. So we say elsewise, we say the Bible doesn't support this at all, and that this is murder. It's stealing lives from children that haven't even made a decision to be a Jehovah's Witness. So this is a big problem. This is a huge problem. It's called child abuse, child neglect, and Japan's dealing with it. But here's how Jehovah's Witnesses show themselves in Japan. They just show that it's just a normal. They've been there for 100 years. Japan, they've been there for a long time. So we went to the news in Japan. It just gives the latest news story, 50 years of printing. We looked at that in Japan. They've been printing a lot. So we're going to look at how much printing they do, but to get there we have to kind of go back here a little bit. And we're going to go down to videos. We're going to run a couple of videos and see how Jehovah's Witnesses present themselves in Japan. Now we're going to look at this video here. It's a 4-minute video, and we're going to look at a video over here, the Asian branch report. And I didn't realize the amount of work that's being done for Jehovah's Witnesses in Japan. Did you know that the New World Translation of the Bible, this here Bible, is printed in Japan for the whole world? Yeah, that's what these videos are saying. So Japan is really an important strategic mark for Jehovah's Witnesses. And if Japan goes wrong, if it goes south on this religion with the second generation children speaking out, because remember, the Unification Church, they were put on the stage and all the second generation spoke out. And you know what they did? They put a petition to cancel the religion in the country. And the religion's trying to buy their way out with $65 million right up front to buy their way out. Put aside, we'll put this aside for all the victims. And the country's saying, no, you guys committed a crime. Remember, Japan, they're very serious. These are the rules. The country has rules, and they'll make new rules if it means protecting the future. And Japan is very concerned about the future. And if you notice, all of the religions in those first few videos, Japan's a very spiritual country. Very spiritual, but this whole Western religious idea is brand new to Japan. It's something that they don't like it. They don't like it. But here's what the Jehovah's Witnesses say is going on in Japan. I think they've done a lot of work in Japan. I think up until now, up until the second generation speaking out, they felt Japan was just booming. So let's see how this goes here. I'll put it on the big display here, and we'll get this ready to play for you here.
Honey, this was made at Bethel. This magazine too.
Bethel?
Here at Bethel, Bibles and many kinds of Bible-based publications are produced. How are these publications produced? The original scripts in English are sent from the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses in New York, and then are translated into Japanese by a translation team. The translated scripts are neatly composed using MEPS, which was developed by Jehovah's Witnesses. The composed electronic data are burned onto printing plates and sent for printing. A tremendous amount of white paper will be turned into Bibles and publications containing the vital message.
I just wanted to stop here and interject. You notice all those big rolls of white paper in Japan? Like, I didn't think Japan had that amount of trees to cut down and make a whole pile of paper for Jehovah's Witnesses. And you notice nowhere in the world do Jehovah's Witnesses have a tree planting campaign to make up for any of the paper that they utilize in the world. And to me, that's wrong. Where most every other religion out there has a tree planting campaign. The Mormons, the Eastern religions, Hindu, all of these religions have tree planting campaigns because that looks after the next generation, not Jehovah's Witnesses. I'll get off the screen here.
This Bible literature is shipped continuously to meet the spiritual needs of people all over the world. As we ship out box after box, we think of those who will receive them with happy smiles.
Sweetie, can you read the first paragraph, please?
There have been some great opportunities to talk about my beliefs at school.
E-publications have also been provided, which you can easily access through the official website of Jehovah's Witnesses, including many sign language programs. A variety of audio-video programs has been produced. To support the activities of Jehovah's Witnesses, various kinds of work are being done here at Bethel, such as preparation for conventions and assemblies, helping with the construction of kingdom halls, providing use.
Did you guys see that? I was wondering if that was Samuel Hurd at the assembly. Just go back there. Right here. Yeah, that's Samuel Hurd right there. I didn't know he could speak Japanese. Like, why would he go to an assembly? Let's be honest here. Is this not idol worship? Like, the guy can't speak Japanese. He's not from the country. Like, all those people there, they know the religion. The branch office knows the religion. They know the tongue. Why did they have them there? This is an example of idol worship. These guys want to be in front of the rank and file all over the world. And Japan is huge for Jehovah's Witnesses. It's huge, and we're going to show you in the next video. So let's carry on.
Helping with the construction of kingdom halls, providing useful information on bloodless treatment, and organizing disaster relief work. Here at Bethel, you will see many working zealously, doing all kinds of work.
I wanted to go back to the disaster relief work. You skip through that. Where is it? Right here. So there is a video on some of the hurricanes that went through. Japan's an island, so it gets all these hurricanes. Most likely there's insurance. How it works is the Jehovah's Witnesses, all the people here, this is probably their kingdom hall they're rebuilding, but they'll go around and rebuild the whole neighborhood if they can get insurance money. And it looks good. You get all these people donating their time. The organization will bring in food, water. They'll feed everyone. They'll get a whole community, but they go after the insurance money. A lot of that's behind the scenes. A lot of people don't realize that with these organizations. All these organizations will do that. It'll look good. They get in there, and a lot of times when there's a disaster and they fly in all these people, that's the worst thing. We talked about that today. The worst thing, because now all these Canadians and Americans are all in Japan. They don't speak the language. They don't know where they're going. They have to be looked after. The best is just to get the supplies in and give them the funding, the resources to do it. But that's not what the Watchtower does. The Watchtower wants to make a big deal about it and bring in all kinds of volunteers all over the world. And then they can get more money flowing into the organization from all over the world for this stuff. They make good money on hurricanes. It's big bucks for the Watchtower. Big bucks.
Here at Bethel, you will see many working zealously, doing all kinds of work. All of them are closely united so that they can give full support to our worldwide Bible educational work. We are really pleased to see you here at Bethel. It has been a privilege to provide you with a glimpse of some of the work being done at the Japan branch.
Okay. Okay, so that's the first video on what's going on with Japan. They make it look good, and they're doing all that. Japan is a very strategic country for the Watchtower. We're going to show you in the next video how strategic it is. The Asian branch report. This is an 11-minute video. We can play it all, but it'll show you how Japan. Well, right now in this last video, we see how Japan is printing Bibles for the whole world. This is going to highlight it here, and if things go south in Japan, I think that's not a good thing for the Watchtower. You know, with this second generation. We're going to look at after this, we're going to get into some of this other stuff. So let's see what's going on here. Japan. Nice countryside. When you look all over the world, you know, we see nice countryside everywhere.
The prophet Isaiah foretold that in the final part of the days, people of all nations would flock to Jehovah's elevated place of pure worship. They would say, Jehovah will instruct us about his ways, and we will walk in his paths. Well, how happy we are to see this prophecy.
So what I always wonder, and they've said that all over the world with this organization. Where's my lighting? Just turn my lighting up a bit here. There. They've always said what he just said. People are flocking into Jehovah's organization. I was in there from 1981 to 2012. I was in there for 30 years, and through the duration of the 30 years, there was a lot of growth. But then in the last few years, since the internet became a big thing, the growth just plummeted. So people are no longer flocking to what they call Jehovah's organization. Those growth periods are done. Now, on this last year 2023 report, they showed like huge increases with baptism, like up to 85%. But consider the virus. No one was getting baptized through the virus. They were saving it up. So if you had 100 baptisms through the period of the virus, and then all of a sudden you had 1,000, well, then you'd have a 85% increase. And that's kind of what was happening. They weren't going to meetings. They were Zooming in all over the world, so people saved up their baptisms. But then they didn't talk about all the holes in the ship, all the people leaving the organization. They didn't talk about that on the report. And they're not transparent. They don't give numbers anymore. But let's carry on.
undergoing fulfillment right before our eyes. The result is multicultural and multilingual, united worshipers giving praise to Jehovah. This morning, we want to share proof of this as we experienced on our recent branch visit. It was truly a pleasure for Terry and myself to be teamed up with Robert and Faith Lucioni for the branch visit to 3 countries in Asia from March 29th through April 19th, 2016. Our first stop was with Japan. The 214,000 publishers in Japan are very active in the ministry. With over 65,000 regular pioneers, they maintain one of the highest ratios of pioneers to publishers. The branch facilities in Japan are surrounded by beautiful gardens and water features, which certainly bring honor to Jehovah's name. We also enjoyed a tour of the printery. Their presses print magazines, brochures, tracts, and books for the entire Asia region. When it comes to Bible...
So one thing to keep in mind with Japan is because the technology is high in Japan, they're a high level of technology. All the people, all the children, all the workers from the rank and file of Jehovah's Witnesses coming in, this technology is going to be easy to them. Computers, working with all this stuff that you see in this factory. And so therefore they're going to have access in Japan, because they're keeping this all in Japan, to some of their technology for printing. And Watchtower, they're very smart when it comes to strategic placements of where they're going to print and how they're going to do business. But this is all big business, folks. Keep in mind, they camouflage this as a religion. Oh yeah, we're a religion. We want all the charity money, and there's billions. We looked in Canada here. It was in the billions of monies that go into the religions, charity from the governments. We'll be doing another video on that coming up, but we'll be looking at how much money governments are putting into the religions. And right now, the second generation, there's an awakening. The religions are being questioned. Why are we putting money into religions when they believe in this and this religion believes in that? And for a lot of us on the outside, we don't believe in any of that. So why is my tax dollar supporting more of that religion, this religion, or that religion? That's the question that's out there right now. Why are religions getting these kind of charity breaks? They're getting charity breaks all over the world. And some countries are getting huge charity breaks. They're getting not only charity breaks, but they're getting funding. Funding per publisher. That's why they want big numbers. And they want to show how many people come in, on the memorial. They like to quote those numbers because they get funding, seating. It's so many seats. And the government will give so many dollars a seat to help them within their kingdom halls and so forth. And that's what all churches get in most countries. We're going to do a video on that and expose some of that as time moves on. But let's get back to what's going on in Japan at the Watchtower.
Printing. They team up with the United States Printery to print all the New World Translation Bibles for the whole world. The bindery in Japan has produced over 8,500,000 deluxe Bibles in 45 languages since the release of the revised New World Translation. With the reduction in personnel in the Bethel family, a number of sisters are making adjustments to new assignments, which were formerly handled by brothers. It was very commendable to note how these sisters make an excellent contribution to the work. The translation department cares for the Japanese language and the Japanese Sign Language translations. On Monday, we enjoyed a special noon meal with the family. One truly special feature was the song sung by the translators and missionaries who joined the branch visit from Bangladesh. What a beautiful group of loyal, hard-working brothers and sisters. Along with the Lucionis, we also enjoyed field service with the local congregation. Over the years, the brothers and sisters in Japan have set such a good example in their zeal for kingdom preaching. They continue to find great joy in their ministry. On Saturday, we enjoyed a special program at the Abina Assembly Hall. The program was also streamed to kingdom halls throughout Japan, Bangladesh, and Mongolia. The total attendance was 226,000, Everyone enjoyed a fine interchange of encouragement from the program and the association. Well, the time had come for us to move from Japan to Mongolia. Mongolia is landlocked between Russia and China and is one of the most sparsely populated countries in the world. The landscape.
Okay, so they talk about Mongolia. Japan is looking after all these other countries. So these guys, they call it the Asian Branch Report. And they went through here and they visited all these countries. Some of the countryside's really nice. And then they show some of the people. It's very typical of Jehovah's Witnesses anywhere else in the world. You know, we see the same organizational structure here in Canada, in the United States, and in Germany, all over the world. They build branches. They're in 239 lands. I don't know how many lands have branches, but Jehovah's Witnesses is a huge business. So, some of their branches, some of their kingdom halls, they just have plastic chairs, and that's all they have. We went down to, I spent some time in Mexico, and that's all we had down there. Stack up the plastic chairs, but it worked. And then I'd come back to Canada, and I wonder why they're reupholstering these beautiful seats that we already had, but they just wanted to change the colors, and they're taking off all this oak paneling down all the walls and stuff and painting it because they just wanted to change the coloring. And here we are in countries that just have plastic chairs. So there's definitely an unfairness going on. You know, why couldn't they just have plastic chairs up here? Or why couldn't, rather than reupholstering the chairs up here, why couldn't they send that money down there? I used to always ask those questions, but it's just the way it is, I guess, within any of the religions, maybe. Okay, so there's some nice pictures of these areas. We're going to skim through this. Just didn't want to miss anything. And they're just showing them preaching, and let's tail this up, see what's happening.
His people. Not partial. And he brings them into his beautiful organization that is truly united. We are so thankful and proud to be with his people. Yes, people of all nations are flocking to Jehovah's mountain of true worship. Of course, Jehovah deserves the credit for elevating pure worship in this time. Still, as fellow workers, we are privileged to share in this work, sharing in this work with our brothers and sisters from every part of the earth. Ah, how marvelous it will be when this entire globe is filled only with pure worshipers of Jehovah.
Okay, well, that's it. Now you can't tell me I didn't show you about what the Jehovah's Witnesses are doing there. Let's just get out of here and get back into this screen. Okay, so that's kind of about it. Looking down at Japan, there's a lot of history on the Jehovah's Witness website with Japan. You know, think of it. 2022, this is just last year, marks 50 years of printing in the Japan branch. So if you've had a business that has been in business printing, producing stuff for all over the world, it's going to get pretty good at it. It's going to get huge. And that's what the Japan branch is. It's a huge branch, and they're doing some major work all over the world for the Watchtower. So what's going on in Japan? Let's go to our next screen. Let's look at one by one. How much time? We have enough time. So we're going to look at these screens. This is just my lighting. I don't know why it does that. I've been playing with my lighting here. And it seems like it warms up. The lighting warms up, and then it does this. It's perfect. I'm testing it. It's just perfect. And then it warms up. I'm just going to try something here. There. I turned my backlights up. That seemed to help. Okay, so let's carry on. This is the Asia Shimbun, and we looked at that. They have quite a circulation. They're saying survey 80% of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses held no blood cards. This is interesting. We've been running a lot of videos on blood, so I haven't been running them in the Japanese language, but there's no reason for anybody anywhere in the world to hold these blood cards. If you go to Acts, or to 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 25, Paul right there told the brothers, the Gentiles, it was a matter of conscience. When they go into the town to buy meat, whether it was sacrificial meat or strangled meat or whatever that wasn't bled properly, it was up to their conscience. And he says, we have no reason not to eat the meat. It's from Jehovah. So that's the principle for blood, consuming it. It's in the New Testament. This blood doctrine is definitely the workings and the brainwashing of a cult. It's some severe brainwashing using one little part of one scripture in the Bible and making it a disfellowshipping offense if you take medical treatment. Like that's how they get into the business. The whole religion is designed upon the blood doctrine. And if you want to talk about a religion that's cultish, that's it. If you design your religion to be based upon the blood doctrine, and if you don't believe in the blood doctrine, you're not in. You can't be Christian. That's baloney. And that's what Japan's saying. All over the world we're saying this. So here we are, as part of a survey documenting abuse among Jehovah's Witnesses. 81% of second-generation followers report possessing cards showing their refusal to receive blood transfusions. That's because of this brainwashing trance that Jehovah's Witnesses have put all over the world. According to the survey released by a team of lawyers, more than 90% of the respondents said they had experienced physical abuse such as whippings. And there are reports that these abusive practices have been carried out for several decades in various places, showing a continuity of systematic nature to the abuse, one of the lawyers reported. And they talk about the lawyer on the survey team said followers were abused when they were children, and they could continue to experience human rights violations for decades, sometimes for their entire lives. And it's necessary to understand this serious reality and find ways to stop the abuse as a society. And this is what Japan's looking at doing. So the main opposition Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan held a hearing died on November 20th, in which two former followers who were born to a family of Jehovah's Witnesses attended. This is a news conference. Child abuse is never to be tolerated, even if it stems from religious beliefs. This is what's been going on in Japan. They're going hard after this. One of them testified that he was a medical institution liaison member and instructed followers to refuse blood transfusions even though he had no medical knowledge or qualifications. Imagine that. And all of these medical, Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in higher education. We showed that on some of our previous videos regarding, it's right in their elders book. If you're a family head and you're promoting higher education, you're going to lose you're going to be stripped of all your privileges in the congregation, and you're going to be put on reproof. So, they solicit responses from followers and former followers between May and June. 581 people responded. And the survey asked about issues including refusals of blood transfusions, physical assaults, such as whipping, forced propagandism, and restrictions on social interactions. This is what's going on in Japan. So these were all categorized as child abuse in the Health and Welfare Ministry guidelines, which define child abuse from religious parents and were published at the end of the last year. So some of the questions targeted people who were born into the followers' families, and the team asked those who were under 18 when they participated in the religious activities. More than 80% of the respondents said they possessed either a blood transfusion refusal card or an identification document showing parents do not want blood transfusions administered to their children. Among the followers, striking with bare hands, rulers, or belts is called whipping, and 92% of the respondents says they have experienced it. And furthermore, 96% of the respondents said that they had been unable to participate in certain classes at school events. And in response to the study, Jehovah's Witnesses told the Ashai Shimbun, "We do not force our religion on children, and we do not condone child abuse." That's what Jehovah's Witnesses, their spokesman, said. We know that's a lie. So that's the end of that article. And, it's article after article. Japan's just printing them out left and right. This is from another newspaper. The Main Chai, Jehovah's Witnesses official, encouraged child abuse by parents, ex-follower in Japan. A senior official of Jehovah's Witnesses told her to remove the underwear before whipping, and the beating escalated. One former Jehovah's Witness recalled about her mother during an interview with the Mainichi Shimbun amid the recent findings of the vast majority of second-generation followers are subjected to child abuse by their believer parents. And the woman, 45, from Tokyo Hashi, had attended the religious group meetings with her mother, who was an ardent believer, since she was preschool age. If she fell asleep during the meeting or talked back to her mother, she would whip her over her clothes using a bamboo ruler. When she was in the 4th grade, the senior members who had assumed the position of patrolling inspector or overseeing a regional follower group, they'd probably be like a circuit overseer. Well, these circuit overseers always get up when they do a visit, and at the end of the visit, they give a talk to the congregation. They say, well, here's the needs of your congregation. So I can imagine that's what this was. And the overseeing, a regional follower apparently told, like the circuit overseer would apparently told the followers repeatedly, remove children's underwear when whipping them. Can you imagine a circuit overseer getting up at the end of the visit and telling the congregation, when you whip your children, remove the clothing? Could you imagine that? I'd be interested to hear in the comments if this has went on in your congregation. Goes on to say, the woman's mother then started removing her underwear before whipping her bottom with a ruler and other objects. The choir song, the kingdom songs that they sing. You remember the kingdom song? We got looking at it. You got to go to an older kingdom songbook here, but the kingdom song sang at the time titled "Children, Precious Gifts from God." You remember that song? And it seemed to have encouraged the beatings with its lyrics included, "Our children are a possession to train and to teach." And he says, "Use the rod." Do you remember that song, guys? It's out there. So it's quoted here. It's no longer, I couldn't find it. They pulled it off the market, but it was one of the older songs. After I had my first period in junior high school, the whipping stopped. But from that time, it felt like it had been sexual assault, and I hated it, the woman said. She also revealed to the paper that the religious group told its followers to prioritize the group's meetings and have their children miss school to attend them. And she said another senior member had told the followers, in the event of a school event and meeting overlap, prioritize the latter. And what would you do if Armageddon happened during the school event? So the woman had missed her school on Saturdays and left in the middle of sports festivals to join the group's meeting or regional events. So yes, they do that. They will actually encourage their members to quit their job, to attend a district assembly. And they will say, well, Jehovah will look after you. What's more important? I remember this. This is back in the 80s and 90s, 2000s. 80s and 90s they did, especially. So when a student misses school in Japan for religious reasons, the absence is treated as personal. And the woman's report cards from her elementary, junior, and senior high school shows that she was absent for personal reasons 1 to 3 times a year. And she recalled, it was very hard for me to talk to my teachers about my situation for missing school. So you can imagine a little kid trying to explain why they can't do any of the holidays at school, they can't do any of the celebrations, and they have to miss all this school. It's hard for children. How do they explain that to their teachers? So, okay, so the next article is the Ashai Shimbun, the same one, And this one's ex-Jehovah's Witnesses denied surgery after parents refused blood. A 20-year-old man, this is him, raised as a third-generation Jehovah's Witness, speaks out about having to wait 8 years for heart surgery due to his parents' refusal of blood transfusion. Can you imagine? He had to wait 8 years to quit the religion to get heart surgery. This guy. This is why this religion's crazy. It's good that we're talking about this and getting this out there, so the public can see all this. Now, he goes on to say, for 8 years until he turned 18, a man raised as a third-generation Jehovah's Witness suffered because he couldn't have heart surgery due to his parents' refusal to allow a blood transfusion. At age 10, he was diagnosed with an arterial septal defect, a condition characterized by a hole in the heart for which a doctor recommended surgery. And during the physical education classes at school, he was the only one unable to run among all the other students. So he says, I want to have the surgery if it will make me feel better, he thought at the time. The man, now 20, cooperated in a lawyer's survey documenting abuse among the religious group. He said when a doctor mentioned that he might need a blood transfusion in the event of an emergency during the surgery, his parents' expressions changed. The Jehovah's Witness faith teaches that God prohibits practices such as transfusions of whole blood as a medical treatment. His parents firmly said, we will not sign the consent form for a blood transfusion. During medical examinations, a follower, called a medical institution liaison member, also attended, explaining to the doctor the reasons for refusing blood transfusions, the man said. His parents instructed him to state his refusal to have a transfusion. He repeatedly practiced his lines in front of the hospital's examination room. Can you imagine? They gave him lines to say to the doctor, like, this is why we know that this is bogus. These people are being indoctrinated. They're being like forced to do this. And if they don't do this, they get shunned. They get it's disassociation. We ran this on our last video. It's just terrible. And that's why this has to all come out. People have to speak out about this for the governments to stop this nonsense. These are not charity religions. These religions are not helping people. Now, he repeatedly practiced his lines, in front of the hospital examination room, and he then recited them exactly to the doctor. And he says, I believe in the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses, so I cannot undergo a blood transfusion. And when he showed reluctance to adhere to the practice in a show of defiance, his parents whipped him at home for lacking faith. I'm glad he's talking out. This stuff has to come out. He was confronted with the harsh reality that the doctrine was prioritized over his life of a child, and that's the way it is. And when he turned 18, the doctors told him that he could undergo surgery based on his own decision, so he decided to do so. He signed the consent form along with a nurse who acted as a witness. The surgery was successful, and ultimately no blood transfusion was needed. His health improved rapidly after surgery. If only I could have had the surgery earlier, he lamented, which he has long carried in frustration. He cannot forgive his parents, but he felt even more anger toward the Jehovah's Witness faith, he said. On November 20th, he spoke out during the Diet hearing conducted by the main opposition Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan. I believe that there are many children who are still suffering due to the teachings of the religious group, the man said. I would like you to extend a helping hand from the outside. So thank you very much to that young man for speaking out. Very, very brave, this 20-year-old man. Amin Shimanzaki. There's a picture of him. That's his story. So folks, this just shows us and this is happening all over the world. This young man's story is not just one single story. This is happening all over the world. All these young Jehovah's Witnesses are afraid to speak out because they're afraid of getting shunned. It's just such a terrible thing, the shunning. And this young man, he had to walk away. He had to cut off his right hand and walk away from his family to make this statement, because that's the way it is in this religion. Okay, so we're going to go to our last article here, and I'm going to put this on. It's a short video. I think
team of lawyers has released the results.
It's how long is it here? Oh yeah, it's only a minute and a half. So I'll put it on full screen here for you guys.
A team of lawyers has released the results of its survey on alleged child abuse by members of the Jehovah's Witnesses religious group in Japan. The team provides legal support to former members of the group and children of members. The lawyers conducted the survey this year and received 560 responses. It comes after Japan's Health and Welfare Ministry released its own guidelines around child abuse and religion last year. 81% of the respondents said they had cards indicating refusal of blood transfusions. The guidelines say parents refusing medical treatment for children on religious grounds amounts to neglect, which is a form of abuse. Over 90% of the respondents reported being whipped, banned from school activities, and forced to limit their human relations.
I want society, as a whole, to discuss and eliminate abuse that has been overlooked for religious reasons.
The lawyers said many of the children experienced physical and mental abuse that led to problems such as loneliness, alienation, and lack of self-esteem. Asked about the survey results, the Jehovah's Witnesses told NHK it never tolerates child abuse in any form. The group also said it's impossible to see the whole picture based on answers from a small number of people with negative feelings.
So I think this has to happen all over the world, what's going on here in Japan. And I think Japan's a forward country, a futuristic country. This is the future. The future is speaking out all over the world in every country about this religion. A religion that abuses children, a religion that teaches abuse, that teaches you to sacrifice your children in medical procedures. The Watchtower gets involved where they shouldn't get involved. It is definitely not a religion. It looks like it is, but it's not once you get into it. The shunning policy is so evil. It's so terrible. Your kids won't talk to you. I have 2 kids that don't talk to me. And it's just such a terrible thing. So we're going to move on here a little bit further here. And I'm going to pull up a video. Let me just get back to my Night Talk studio. We're going to look at a video to close the thing down here. And let me see if I can find it here for you. And Watchtower Helper has put together a really good video on blood. I show it on a lot of videos, a lot of my videos relating to blood. This is an individual who, Watchtower Help admin, who used to work in Bethel, used to work in the Warwick Bethel alongside everyone there. And he left, told them why they were doing stuff wrong with the blood. And he made a video. He has a site here. He's anonymous. We don't really know who he is. But it's a really good website for instructional. And he has a blog that really helps us if we're trying to get out of the Watchtower, help us to understand the blood. He has about 8 pages on it under the Watchtower Help Club. And email us if you have any questions. Now I'm going to play a bit of this video. It's a really good video. They call it the near-death experience of Anthony Morris. And they show what happens in a in a hospital room, and it starts out here with the liaison committee. A lot of people don't understand what goes on. They have a liaison committee right there, and in this particular video, they have Pastor Russ, and Pastor Russ is arguing with the HLC committee about the Bible. They're having a debate. So we'll see how that goes, and the guy in here that's dying is one of the governing body members. So enjoy. If you've already seen this, that's fine. It's a good little show. So here it is.
Nurse, isn't this our DWI patient? I ordered 2 units of blood, a CAT scan, and booking the OR for emergency surgery. The man has internal bleeding, so there's no time to lose. What's he still doing here? It looks like you've done nothing. He's not even hooked up to oxygen. What? He's a Jew?
No, not a Jew, a JW, a Jehovah's Witness. They're the ones who won't take blood. So, Dr. Henderson said it was pointless to do anything else, because without blood, he'll be dead in a few minutes no matter what we do.
The man came in unconscious. How do you know he's a JW?
He had one of these. I recognize it from other patients I've seen. And our chaplain, Pastor Russ, has seen the patient on the internet.
Yes, it's Anthony Morris III. He's one of their leaders, the governing body they call themselves. He's a real stickler on their prohibition on blood.
Well, page Dr. Charles and ask him to declare the man incompetent to make his own medical decisions. Then give him the blood, stat.
No! You can't do that! That's a violation of the laws of God and man.
Excuse me, but who are you? A family member?
I'm Fred Krantz of the HLC, the Hospital Liaison Committee. I'm here to ensure this man's wishes are honored and his rights are respected, and to explain to you what blood fractions he can and cannot accept in order to maintain his integrity to Jehovah, our God.
A lawyer?
No.
Has the patient legally given you power of attorney?
Well, no.
Then you have no business being here.
Get out of here before I call security.
This man's life is in danger, and you're wasting our time.
No. Brother Morris would want me here, defending his religious freedom.
It's all a mistake, though. You know, your ban on blood. It's not against God's law to accept blood.
Oh, I'd expect as much from a clergyman. Have you never read Acts chapter 15? For the Holy Spirit and we ourselves have favored adding no further burden to you except these necessary things, to keep abstaining from things sacrificed to idols, from blood, from what is strangled, and from sexual immorality. If you carefully keep yourselves from these things, you will prosper. Good health to you. Injecting blood into your veins is not abstaining from blood.
Yes, I have read that. Have you ever read Leviticus 19 verse 19?
You should keep my statutes. You must not interbreed 2 sorts of your domestic animals. You must not sow your field with 2 sorts of seed, and you must not wear a garment made with 2 sorts of thread mixed together.
Care to show us the label on your suit? I'll bet it violates that last biblical rule.
It's a wool and silk blend. So what? That's from the Mosaic Law. That law passed away with Jesus' sacrifice. It's not binding on Christians today.
Oh, so you're saying that we must consider the context of a scripture and not just yank it out and follow it as if it necessarily applies to us today?
Of course.
So then, maybe if we considered the context of abstain from blood, it would reveal the fact that it too is not something binding on Christians today. In the first place, this is not a commandment from God or Jesus. It is the words of someone named James. Who is this James, and why should we assume that he had any business encumbering Christians with such rules? When Jesus was asked what the commandments were, did he mention any of these dietary restrictions? No, he did not. He stated 2 commandments to rule all behavior, to love God and to love your neighbor. So, why would James, as a follower of Christ, take it upon himself to add extra commandments? The fact is, he wouldn't. No real Christian would. So, what was going on here? Well, the first verse of that chapter in the book of Acts gives us the answer. It tells us that certain men, known as Judaizers, were insisting that Gentile Christians needed to get circumcised. The meeting, related in Acts 15, was called to decide the matter. James disagreed with the need for circumcision, but in order to appease the Judaizers, decided to caution Gentile Christians against violating the more publicly obvious of the Jewish customs, such as engaging in lewd behavior, eating meat sacrificed to idols, or eating meat that had not been properly bled. The Bible clearly states that this was the reason for the decision, not that it was a commandment from God that involved a Christian's salvation, but rather because, according to verse 21, from ancient times Moses has had those who preach him in city after city, because he is read aloud in the synagogues on every Sabbath. The advice was that these practices be abstained from, because Jews certainly would consider the eating of such meats as participating in heathen idolatry. Christian freedom did not obligate one to follow the dietary laws of the Jews. Paul makes this crystal clear in 1 Corinthians, chapters 8 and 10, where he writes that he, as a Christian, is perfectly free to eat meat sacrificed to idols. Nevertheless, it was advisable that the Gentile Christians abstain from the use of their liberty in this matter, out of deference to the weaker brethren, Jews and Gentiles, who could not so deeply philosophize and whose consciences might be injured. A similar thought attaches to the prohibition of the use of blood. To the Jew it was forbidden, and under his covenant it was made a symbol of life. To partake of it would imply responsibility for the life taken. These prohibitions had never come to the Gentiles, because they had never been under the law covenant, but so deeply rooted were the Jewish ideas on this subject that it was necessary to the peace of the church that the Gentiles should observe this matter also. If they did not wish to be contentious and cause divisions in the church, the Gentile brethren would surely be willing to restrain or sacrifice their liberty respecting these matters. However, today there are no Jews or Christians, outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses, who would be stumbled by a Christian having a blood transfusion. So, the rationale behind the request that James made no longer exists. Therefore, Christians are free to have blood transfusions.
Well, that's certainly a pretty speech. But it's wrong. Gentiles were prohibited from blood, even though they were never under the Mosaic law. Being descendants of Noah, they came under the everlasting covenant made with Noah after the flood. Didn't you make it past chapter 4 of Genesis in your seminary? There we read God's command. Only flesh with its life, its blood, you must not eat.
I can comment on that. In Hebrew school, we were taught from the Talmud that this means that we are not to eat flesh from a living being, not to bite into an animal that is alive, with its life still in it.
Interesting, I hadn't considered that before, yet that's literally what the verse says. It's a prohibition against eating a certain type of flesh, living flesh. It's not a prohibition against blood at all.
Oh, that's just hair-splitting semantics. It's obvious that God wants us all to abstain from blood.
Well, there's another verse in the Bible that contradicts your idea that Gentiles were forbidden to eat blood. In Deuteronomy 14 verse 21 we read,
"You must not eat any animal that was found dead. You may give it to the foreign resident who is inside your cities, and he may eat it, or it may be sold to a foreigner. For you are a holy people to Jehovah your God."
An animal found dead would not have been properly bled. That's why a Jew could not eat it, being part of a holy people under a covenant with God, but the verse tells us that a non-Jew could eat it, blood and all. Surely you haven't been sacrificing people's lives on the basis of such flimsy misinterpretations of Scripture. Have you?
No, there's more to it than that. We see a consistent pattern throughout the Bible of God condemning the eating of blood. Leviticus 17 verse 14 is another clear instance.
Leviticus? Isn't that part of the Mosaic law?
You know it is.
But you already said, when I mentioned that your apparel violates that law, that Christians are no longer under that law. Is that correct? Or did I misunderstand you?
You didn't misunderstand. But I'm not using Leviticus here as a law, but as a principle. God hates the use of blood.
Yet he created vampire bats, mosquitoes, and a host of other creatures who cannot survive without eating blood. He allowed Gentiles to eat unbled animals, and he allowed Paul, under inspiration, to state that a Christian could eat anything sold in the market without being concerned that they might be eating meat sacrificed to idols or meat from an unbled animal. Why would that be, if he hated it so much?
Well, I don't claim to know everything. All I know is that if we try to save our life by violating God's laws, then we'll lose our everlasting life. That's a deeply held religious conviction that I'm sure even you gentlemen can appreciate.
No! I can't appreciate it at all. In Hebrew school, we learned the rabbinic principle known as pikwach nefesh. Saving life supersedes God's law.
That's wonderful. But we're Christians, not Jews.
Oh, but Jesus lived by this principle as well. It's taught to us in Matthew chapter 12.
At that season, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples got hungry and began to pluck heads of grain and to eat. At seeing this, the Pharisees said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what it is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." He said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he and the men with him got hungry? How he entered into the house of God, and they ate the loaves of presentation, food it was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those with him, but for the priests only."
Jesus didn't believe that one should starve to death before breaking a commandment. His actions and teaching show that he believed that God's commandments could be broken in life or death situations. As he said, the law was made for man, and not man for the law. It was meant to be a help in living a good life, not a cause for death. Your own Watchtower magazine reached the same conclusion when commenting on these verses, stating that
Jesus was calling attention to acts of mercy on the Sabbath day, that it was perfectly legitimate to render a show of mercy to one who is in need even though it was the Sabbath, and that there is, in effect, no violation of the Sabbath by such course of action.
So, even if you still mistakenly think that accepting blood violates God's law, then this principle should show you that when it comes to saving a life, there is no violation.
Name?
Anthony Morris III. Don't you recognize me? I'm a member of the governing body.
Governing what body?
You must be joking. The Jehovah's Witnesses, of course.
The Jehovah's. What? Oh, never mind. Here you are. No, this isn't right. You're not supposed to be here for a few years yet. What happened?
Evidently, I was in a car accident. I think I drove into a tree or something.
I see. It seems you may have had a bit too much to drink. The record isn't clear on that. But, according to this, you were supposed to survive that incident.
Well, I probably would have, if I had violated my faith and accepted a blood transfusion.
Okay. Head that way. All early arrivals have to see the boss.
Hi there, Jesus. It's Anthony. I'm ready to be in heaven. Just give me a horse and a sword and we can get this Armageddon thing going. Can't wait to smell those human hot dogs, Sizzlin'.
Tony, my son, I'm afraid we can't let you in. You've got blood on your hands.
What? Whose blood? I tell you I'm innocent of the blood of all men.
Do you remember Joshua Walker?
Oh sure, that little fella. He stuck to his guns, just like me, and refused blood. I paid tribute to his faith at a convention in 2016.
And he died, long before his time. We had big plans for him. What about Dennis Lindbergh?
I don't remember him.
He was a 14-year-old who died refusing blood back in 2007. I could give you thousands of such names, but you probably wouldn't even recognize them.
We just told people about God's law concerning blood. The rest was their personal decision.
Children aren't capable of making such life and death decisions based on your convoluted reasoning. You and your cohorts are blood guilty. You used your undue influence to coerce children, and their parents, into giving up their lives.
Well, should we have told them to disobey God's law? Saving their lives just to lose their everlasting lives?
Don't you remember my telling the Pharisees, I want mercy, and not sacrifice? You were just like them, always making more rules about ever smaller minutiae, but missing the spirit of things. Imagine issuing edicts about what fractions of blood are acceptable. When did I ever mention blood fractions? Where is it in any page of your enormous Bible? I said that my load was kindly and light. I taught about forgiveness and love. I said the entire law could be summed up by love. There is nothing loving in forcing a parent to withhold life-saving medical care from their child. Love trumps laws, even what you imagine to be God's laws. But you didn't understand that. You presumed to tell your followers that God wanted sacrifice, not mercy. I said that nothing that enters a person can defile him. Didn't you realize that this includes blood? Only what comes out of a person can defile him. Words that lead to death, such as the words in the watchtower demanding the sacrifice of children's lives on your altar of blood. These words have defiled you, and made you unfit to be in my sight any longer.
Wait! I demand to see your supervisor. Take me to Jehovah to plead my case.
Who? Oh, yeah, you're that group that still believes in the war god of the ancient Israelites and Canaanites.
You were a Jew. You also believed in Jehovah, didn't you?
No. Why do you think I never mentioned him? Yahweh was a cruel, angry, vengeful God, whom I wanted nothing to do with. I tried to turn men's thoughts to a loving, heavenly Father figure, whom they could emulate. You emulated Jehovah. No wonder you're eager to fight a war.
Oh, geez.
What?
Sorry. I mean, well, what happens now? To me?
Well, there's one thing you guys got right. Death is the absence of life, and nothing survives it. In a moment you will cease to exist.
Brother Morris! Morris! Will someone nudge him awake?
What?
We're voting, brother. Everyone else has their hand up already.
Oh. Remind me, what is it we're voting on?
To approve this letter to the HLC elders, reaffirming our stance on the importance of preventing blood transfusions in babies, the group most commonly in need of them.
Wait a minute. I had a dream. Wow. All about the blood doctrine.
Was it a revelation?
No. It wasn't anything I didn't know already. Besides, we don't believe Jehovah communicates to us anymore in dreams. I'll make it unanimous. I vote yes.
Well, I wonder when he threw his, he crumpled his thing up and threw it in a...
Besides...
He threw it in the, right there. He crumples it up and throws it in the garbage. Do you think in the dream he realized that this blood doctrine is garbage, so he's getting rid of his blood card? But he's a hypocrite. He's voting still. Or maybe he didn't vote. Maybe he did rip up the blood card, and he didn't vote, and they kicked him out of the governing body, because this is the guy that got kicked out, Tony Morris. We have a lot of fun with Tony, good old Tony. So, folks, that brings an end to our program this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. There's certainly a lot going on in Japan. We see that Japan's a forward-thinking nation, and we see there's a lot going on with the Watchtower in Japan. They call this the Central for Asia down there, and they're providing literature for the whole world. So whatever happens in Japan, if the Watchtower doesn't change what they're doing now and quickly, I don't know what's going to happen. But if it's going to follow suit to what's going on in Norway, that's what it looks like. Japan, when the Unification Church, the second generation, spoke out, I already said this, they went after the religion. So we're going to keep you guys up to date on Japan. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And that's how you can get the latest on the news. So we want to thank everyone for being online today. I'm not on my StreamYard, so I can't really see what's going on, and I can't put the messages up on the screen. But I see my good wife has been there helping out, so thanks very much for that, good wife. Thanks to Beverly Harward for being on, and K Fred. These are all the regulars. You guys really help us out a lot. And I want to make a special note to ICU. ICU. I see you. I see you. Well, ICU, I don't know who ICU is, but ICU is a huge supporter in the XJW community. We want to give ICU a special thank you for helping us on our channel and giving my good wife the support, because ICU has that in-depth knowledge of what it's like to be in the Watchtower. Not everyone has that. My good wife really does her best, and you'd almost think she was a JW, but I'm glad she's not, because if she was, I wouldn't be here today. So thank you very much, my good wife. So that brings an end to our program, and I want to thank you guys, and keep living your life with love. Bye for now. Oh, hello. My name is Vern. Join the channel. We cover JW World News, and we give you the rest of the story. Today, we're going to the Watchtower. And we have lives on Tuesday nights and Saturdays, and an excellent community. So join the channel and watch as we crash into the Watchtower. Here it is. I see it coming. Woo! Join us as we report in on the Watchtower.